This segment brought to you by Bravo Company USA. Hey gang, thanks for joining. Larry Vickers, Vickers Tactical, my good friend Ken Hackathron, my good buddy Karl. We're back out here at ISS in California, one of our most popular segments we've ever done. Got tons of comments, tons of feedback. We're back in here to look at movie guns. We're going to take you through a little bit more details because that's some of the feedback we got is you guys wanted more details. You also wanted more information on how the guns were built. And we're going to also hopefully get a little bit of behind the scenes on how ISS goes about making a gun work with blanks. We don't want to give away any trade secrets, but Karl's going to kind of give us some information in that realm. So to kick it off, not scripted, so we're kind of going off the cuff here. Ken and Karl, what do we got?
Karl, I'm a big fan of the movie The Highwaymen. I think it's one of the, from a technical standpoint, one of the best movies made in a long time. If you're a gun guy, that movie was superbly done. I was talking to your sidekick Joey earlier, who's more of the single action guy stuff, and had a lot of. He was there, I think, during the filming.
He was, yeah.
And so he gave me a lot of feedback about what was going on. But one of the cool parts of the movie, of course, was the fact that Frank Hammer and his sidekick Manny Galt, both former Texas Rangers, their choice of armament. And one of the guns that was really highlighted in the movie, of course, was the Colt Monitor VAR. And obviously this was the one that was made up, you guys made up for the movie. And I'm going to guess this is obviously not original, but tell us a little bit about how you created the version, your version, for the movie of a VAR that's a Colt Monitor.
Yeah, so I mean, it's got a lot of modifications to it. Luckily, we had the stock. The pistol grip is from an FND, or
and you had probably to make the forearm, probably?
Yeah, so the forearm was actually an original that was modified, and then our gunsmith attached a separate piece of wood and shaped the whole thing.
Shape it.
He cut down the gas tube, cut down the barrel.
And made up the, was that original?
That's it's an original from a shotgun. And then the pieces in front or behind and in front, it's been modified.
Make the hole the right size.
Exactly.
Now, you were telling me too before we started here. This is something you guys had to turn around real fast.
Yeah, they didn't have a lot of time. There was some decisions on whether or not they want to spend the money to do all that work. We ended up doing it. It was one of the more expensive items for them to do, aside from the Colt pistol, which we'll talk about in a minute. But we did leave one thing off of this build, which was the dust cover, which I mentioned to you earlier, which was kind of a bummer for me because I wanted to go do the whole thing. But anyway.
And you know, even though it was only used in a very small facet of the movie, the effect it brought was actually pretty well worth the price. I don't know whether they agree, but from a viewer standpoint, it was well worth it.
Yeah, another bummer part for me was the finish. Because of time, it's actually Cerakote.
Yeah.
So
instead of being a nice blue.
Yeah. Now, when you get something like this, is that kind of an all hands on deck thing? Let's say if you've got a certain timeline that you got to get this thing out the door, is it something like, okay, everybody stop what you're doing, we're going to get on this? How does that work?
Well, we have 3 gunsmiths right now. We're looking for a 4th. We're still looking for a 4th, but this was one guy in particular who we would give this kind of a project to. He's our most seasoned gunsmith, Scott Fritzler. He's the same guy I talked to you about before. He used to work for Pac Miners doing custom 1911s. Scott's he's the go-to guy when it comes to that. Our other gunsmiths are very good and they're learning. They're a little bit younger, and but Scott's still our ace in the hole when it comes to builds.
But a way cool gun.
Yeah, for sure.
Very, very cool. Excellent.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the other guns that Frank Hammer was famous for was, of course, he preferred the Remington Model 8.
Right.
And during the case when the actual ambush, when they took out Bonnie and Clyde, he was using a Remington Model 8.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Joey was telling me was pretty interesting. He was on set. They were waiting to shoot. They were like 2 minutes from shooting the scene. He said he was standing there with a gun like this, and he sneezed. And he went to sneeze, and the gun fell.
Oh.
And he said, the stock broke right across.
Whoa.
Oh, no way. He didn't tell me that.
And he said, so,
You can see
consequently, if you
the
look, you see, he said the wood was old and dry. If you look, he had to glue it back together, but pin and glue it. But he said like 2 minutes, they're ready from the scene. And he said, well, and he said, what happened was I went and got the other gun, the blank gun, and said, use this. And the camera guy said, that's a different gun. So, oh, no, it's a Remington Model. No, it's a different gun. because the light reflection on the camera was different. He could tell it was not the same gun.
Oh yeah, he was very sharp
But
with that.
obviously Frank Hammer did some great work with the Remington Model 8.
And what is the most notable thing about the Remington Model 8? What is the most famous feature of this gun? By far.
Well, we know where Kalashnikov got the idea for safety, don't we?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it right there.
Most people don't realize John Browning designed gun, recoil operated. The barrel recoils back,
Yeah,
hits the bolt, cycles the gun.
right. And that's for blanking process. I can't really dive into that, but that was another one of Scott's babies, and it was a huge undertaking. It was basically a complete rebuild.
Yeah, to make a blank work in a recoil gun is
Yeah.
real tough to do. So I guess you had to convert it to the blank gun to a gas
Exactly. Yeah.
gas gun.
Yeah. Now, this one is
not.
left live,
Yeah.
and this is the one they use for all the non-firing scenes.
Right.
A funny bit of information about this is they filmed the movie. All the guns went out. They all came back. The actor actually is probably going to end up with this and go to one of his museums or something. Potentially, we'll see. But we didn't know it at the time. But it was leaning in the corner of my office as we're talking emails and stuff. And it's sitting there like this, and we look at it, and I look at it, and I'm like, oh, look at that. And right there, some guy, Gustav Haupt, you know, back in the day, the guys put their names on their guns.
Oh yeah.
None of us noticed that until well
Guy's
after the
name
movie.
right
That's pretty cool.
So it's kind of a little funny
There you go.
history.
Yeah, it's a cool gun, and the fact that it was historically correct. And I don't know who the people in the movie was responsible for that, but they went to great lengths to make that movie really period correct for 1934.
Right. And before this, the gun we would always go to was the 1907 Winchester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. What's
Now,
next?
the gun that kind of made the show for me, of course, was that Frank Hammer was a single action Army guy. In that era, most cops in the Southwest carried single actions. That's what they knew. That's what they trusted. And he had a gun that was an engraved Colt single action Army, a 45 Colt, that he called Old Lucky. And of course, that's what this gun was designed to replicate.
Right.
And by the way, this is a Colt single action Army. It's not a Italian replica. This is the real deal. And there were some interesting details you had to go to make this kind of correct. That was, shall we say, a pretty expensive endeavor considering what you started with. Tell us what happened to this gun.
Right. So initially, they wanted the actor wanted an original Colt, and Joey had found a pair of engraved Colts on Gunbroker or something.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. So, you know, again, budget came up. We're discussing: are we going to do it? Are we not going to do it? What's most important out of all these guns to do to show? Well, to Kevin, that was the most important, and I think it was a good decision. We bought a cased pair of originals. We completely stripped all the finish. Actually, Joey did it. Stripped all the. I didn't have the heart to do it, or have my guys do it. Joey's like, "I'll do it." I'm like, "Okay, fine, you do it." He stripped it completely down. We took and basically shaved off all the, or sanded off all the engraving, and then we had his name engraved on the back of that.
Yeah, Frank Hammer's and F.A. Hammer engraved on the back, like
Yeah.
the original gun.
And
Was
the
there-
photo, we had a photo of the original. It was a horrible photo, but we did about the best we could with it.
Now, did you do both guns, the pair as the?
No.
So the other gun's still.
So the
original?
other gun's still original, yeah. And you know, it all came down to money. So.
And the thing I was talking to Joey about, you know, in the movie they had him and Manny Galt, Woody Harrelson carrying a gun stuck down their pants.
Right.
That was not. They should have been using Brill holsters, which was the standard, basically for a concealment type holster for the Texas Rangers of that period. They didn't carry them stuck in their belt, you know. So that part of the movie, when I saw that, I was like, ugh, somebody screwed up. Considering the rest of the details, somebody really screwed up on that. Overall, great movie though.
And sometimes
Now,
that's a director or an actor's choice.
Now, the gun they gave Frank Hammer's partner, Manny Galt, is more or less looks to be a traditional Colt single action Army. And this, of course, is the one that Woody Harrelson used, and it's an appropriate. It's a Italian copy. I remember I came here years ago. Larry was telling me that when they bought all the stuff from Stembridge, the Colts were so valuable they were sold off. You guys bought all Italian copies because it's the logical, practical way to go. Plus, these are actually much tougher guns than the originals anyways for
Right.
you know. So,
Yeah, not
actually,
only-
it's not a bad gun, but if you're a single action fanatic, a Colt single action army is the holy grail.
Yeah, we probably sold about 50 Winchesters too.
You know?
It's
And they-
crazy.
because those things are so valuable today. So, yeah, cool guns. I've got to be honest with you. I tell people, if you're a gun guy and you're particularly interested in American history, the West, law enforcement, what we'll call the unruly 30s period stuff, Frank Hammer was the real deal. Probably one of the most unglorified lawmen in history. If you haven't seen the movie, by all means, watch The Highwaymen. It's great.
Nice.
Cool.
We got next.
All right, bro. What's this?
So all 5 of these are from Triple Frontier. So it's another Netflix project. You can see some of them are old, some of them are ratty. You got some really old accessories in there, going back to the arms and things like that, which is, you know, you haven't seen that in almost 20 years, I think.
Basically like a Colt Commando setup.
Yeah, so the idea was that the director had a vision that these guys were down in South America. He wanted them to be able to put together some guns that were from down there.
Down that era.
So there was a scene in the movie, I don't know how much of it got cut out or not, but they basically were parting together their own firearms.
Okay.
So they didn't need the latest, they didn't want the latest and greatest, you know, BCMs or whatever. They wanted the guns to be like 20, 30 years old.
Right.
You know, so that's where we
the
ended
over
up.
rails and the LMT rear sights.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and we didn't. They're not 30 years old per se, but they definitely aren't what today's standards are. So, and I think it gives them more character in a movie like that. Personally.
Oh, absolutely.
And as we know, as you know from doing like Lone Survivor and stuff, a lot of that stuff that was taken for granted, like in the early GWOT, Global War on Terror, now is hard to find. Stuff
Right.
that's like certain stocks, certain optics,
Right.
certain accessories that people didn't even think twice about. Now trying to hunt some of that stuff down, like the SOP mod, Insight Technologies flashlight.
Right.
There's some stuff now that you go, man, good luck trying to find it, let alone getting it and getting an X number that you can use for a movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's simple things like scope rings. You know, on Lone Survivor that was an issue, and the slings were an issue. I actually had the slings custom made, I think by Sotec for that. Anyway, it was sometimes it's hard. That was 2004.
The period.
2006. I can't remember. Yeah.
What's the story on this?
What we got here?
So that's a Michael B. Jordan Springfield MC operator. I can't remember. We had it out with a dummy suppressor on it. So we actually molded it with and without it.
Oh, for Black Panther.
Yeah, Black Panther.
I noticed when I look down towards the end of the muzzle, it's got a different configuration than most of your blank firing guns. Is there a reason why it's got that kind of star effect like insert?
Yeah, that's our BFA.
Okay.
So basically,
So instead of having to thread it, or is that a threaded in unit?
well, there's a thread adapter.
Okay.
So this is not a real threaded barrel. It's a
Okay.
fake threaded barrel. So this is an adapter that threads internally and then has an external.
So that's what.
So when we
the
show
pressure-
it, when we show it in a movie, you're actually threading
Or
on
does
over.
that star effect affect your flash? Does that give enhance or have any effect at all on the blank?
Not so much with that, but the flash hider will, like on the M16s and stuff. That will definitely have an effect on the blanks. But this is basically just a thread adapter for a dummy suppressor, which back in the day, we threaded the dummy cans would thread internally, and it would be
Right.
totally wrong, and you showed that on camera, but
Right.
nobody cared back then. Nowadays,
Now they'd be all over it.
would be all over it. Yeah. So we make these little adapters because in California, a threaded barrel is an assault weapon, so we can't just send that out with anybody.
Oh, I got you.
Okay, what do we got here?
What's the story on the MPX?
So that's Equalizer 2. That's Denzel Washington. Just kind of I think it was one of the ones we hadn't talked about before, so we just grabbed it and threw it on the cart because we did talk about a lot of guns the last time. And this one was kind of neat. We had the Maxim stock, and at the time this was brand spanking new, the Trigicon MRO, and the Maul, B.E. Myers Maul. That was brand spanking new for that time.
That was just hit the market.
Yeah.
What I've seen that movie. Where was this at? Do you remember?
You know what? I haven't seen the movie yet.
I've seen it, I don't remember.
He's
what
supposed
it
to have it in a couple scenes.
was. Okay.
I think it was at the end of the movie where they were at on the island under
Yeah.
the storm.
Oh,
lighthouse.
okay.
Yeah, the bad guys was carrying it, and he took it off. Took it
Oh,
off.
okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so the mall, the cool thing about that B.E. Myers Mall is we were the first ones. We bought 6 of them. They were the first commercial variants.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Non-mil spec.
Non-mil spec, and they actually went into production with the commercial after we requested them for the
Oh,
movie.
that's cool.
Yeah, and
you
ours,
you kind of opened that door.
I think so. I think that's what they told me.
Yeah.
So we'll see. They might have had something in the works prior to that, but I don't know. I'm going to claim credit for
There
it.
you go. Why not?
Why not?
And
That's
the
pretty
6 that we got, they're custom serialized ISS 001, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So
cool.
it's kind of neat.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed the video. Shout out to Spartan117GW for putting it together. Click over here on the MP540 to check out his channel. Here in the middle to subscribe to the Vickers Tactical channel, click on the Wilson Combat Vickers Elite 9mm Commander. And over here on the BCM M4 Carbine, click on it to check out some of our favorite videos. Have a good one.